Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Ruoso. I'm a graphic designer and career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. From career struggles and anxiety to feeling like nothing is ever going to work out, I'm here to explore all the messy stuff that breaks us down and builds us up. So join me as we transform ourselves and finally ditch the struggle. Hi everyone, today I'm going to share a key strategy for doing stuff that scares me. The strategy I use when I'm feeling uncomfortable, when I want to do something, but it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to do this. This is like going to be too hard. So I'm going to share it. And I feel like almost strategy needs to be in quotation marks. I feel like I gave it a very LinkedIn key strategy title. That feels very LinkedIn. It's actually really simple. And this is truly how I motivate myself. I'm not a motivational speaker. That's never going to be my platform, my jam. But truly, when I'm trying to do something or thinking about doing something, and I want to talk about that part, just the thinking part, this is what I tell myself. I tell myself that there's worse out there. I want to start something new. I want to do a project. There's worse out there. And it's not to be insulting to anybody doing other things out there, but there are just times when I have tried to talk myself into something, and this is what I say to myself, because what do we have? The fear of failure, right? So I try and tell myself, whether it's true or not, objectively, I have no idea, that I'm probably not going to be the worst. Like there's someone out there that's even worse than me, and that maybe it's cold comfort to some of you, but for me, this genuinely works. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of when I use this to actually do stuff that scared me and that pushed me out of my comfort zone. Because we have to do that hard stuff. We can't just sit back and stay safe. The doing something that scares you every day, that is absolutely what we have to do. Hopefully we're getting that message through all of these episodes. And I feel like I have been, pushing myself over the last few years to do things. And part of that goes back to, I don't know, maybe 2018-ish. And I really wanted to do a lot of public speaking or get more into that. I'd been training with Toastmasters. I have a whole episode on Toastmasters. That's an interesting ecosystem in itself. But I wanted to say some stuff. I had some messages. I wanted to talk especially to creative people and tell them that I understood the not confidence thing. I understood the self-sabotage thing, all of that. So I got kind of inspired at an event. I was at a speaking event or at a conference and I heard someone speak. And again, I am really not trying to put anyone else down when I say this, but I watched a presentation, someone who had similar experience to me, and the presentation was not great. It fell flat. You could feel in the room, if you tune into the room, it did not really land. And here's why. Not because they weren't smart, not because they didn't have an amazing thing to say or amazing points to make. It was because they were underprepared. The slides looked rushed, and if you are at a design conference and you are a designer, there is an expectation. So they were falling short in a few different ways. And objectively, I could see this. Who knows what was going on in their life? So could have been total chaos and they didn't have any time to prepare, all those things. But I watched this and they had a big platform and they're on the stage and doing the whole thing. And I thought, I can do better than this. And you have to watch out for when you say, I can do better than this, because I'm telling you, you now have to do that thing. And it's like a legal binding obligation to now do that thing. Because I swear there's something that's going on within your body, in your cells, in your soul that is now saying that you need to do this because you're just thinking, okay, the wheels are turning. I can do better than this. And so for me, that was a little bit of a confirmation that there's worse out there. I really did feel like just with preparation alone, because I am good at doing the preparation and the repetition of learning something, that I could deliver potentially a better presentation. And I'm not about comparing myself to them, but I did have to see someone not doing a great job in order to be motivated. And if this sounds really weird, then I guess that's what it is. Like, this truly is my motivation. Just to get myself to do something. There is worse out there, / I can do better. We're going to talk about the perfectionism piece because you're probably like, well, I don't want to just do better. I want to like be at the top. We'll get to that piece in a bit because don't forget, recovering perfectionist over here. So I know that voice in your head very well. But I will give you another example. So 2023-ish, I was in a group coaching program. And at the time, I was kind of mentioning that I was going to start a podcast. I wanted to start a podcast, but I was kind of, I wouldn't say dragging my heels, but it just hadn't come into fruition, didn't exist. So we kind of launched at the beginning of 2024. And the thing is, I do trust myself to execute. I knew I was percolating on the idea. I knew I was going to get there. So I do have a lot of self-trust when it comes to execution. And how I form that is by trying to do the things or doing the things when I can. But I also think there's just, I don't know, I think some of the childhood trauma that kind of forced me to be productive all the time sometimes serves me really well. So I will go forward with something. I knew I was going to do the podcast, but genuinely, the motivation for doing it, because it's pretty scary to put yourself out there. There's like the technical requirements. There's like, all these pieces that come together for it. Got to have the music. You're got to work on your voice. And truly tonight, I'm not having a great voice day, but I decided to record anyway. But the coach in the program was like, so you know what? You can just put it out there. Just put it out there. She's like, you don't even need music. You just microphone and just like record and just like put it out there. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I am not a monster. Okay. I'm not going to put out a podcast without some kind of music or some kind of decent production value because no one's going to tune in, or they'll tune in for 5 seconds because they know me or I'm their friend. And then they'll be like, this is awful. So I had a bar. Okay. I had a bar, but I knew the bar could only be so high just due to my bandwidth, my financial ability. I don't have a huge studio. I'm literally in my small office right now with like handmade baffle board that my husband made for me around me. So I didn't have some huge budget for the show. And it takes time to build a podcast. It's a long game. But I did tell myself, and this is true, like when she said that to me, I was like, okay, there are people putting out episodes that they're just like throwing together, no production. I'm sure some of them are really good because, they're telling great stories or it's a specific niche. But I was like, okay, so this is also confirmation that there is worse out there. Like we have all tuned into a podcast that, I know it's really hard to do it and to try and to do all those things, but it doesn't sound great and it's just not landing. Most of the time, honestly, it's production value. Or they just say every 6 seconds. And I'm sure my producer, Sue, is laughing at this because she cuts out quite a few ums from this as hard as I try. But we've all heard those podcasts that just not really doing it for us. So I was not a monster. I was not going to put out a podcast until I was ready. But again, truly, I was like, okay, well, I want to do this. So there is that pull. Like, I feel like I can do this. I want to try it. But, I'm not going to come out of the gate being amazing at it. It's going to take time to build up. It's a long game, all of that stuff. And there's worse out there, and I'm just going to go for it. Because if I just sit on this idea, or if we don't actually do anything because we're scared of not being perfect at it or amazing at it or top of the charts, all those things, like we can't let that hold us back because we will never do anything. And you have to want the process of it. You just also sometimes have to tell yourself that like you'll be okay because you probably won't land flat on your face. And if you do, that's okay too. Now, I have mentioned this in multiple episodes that I don't think I have I think I'm okay to be slightly embarrassed or uncomfortable. There's like still some episodes that are in the catalog that I actually want to pull down. I don't love them. They make me a little cringy for sure, but I keep them up because I partly do it to force myself to be in a state of discomfort. And maybe there's someone out there who has listened to it and got something out of it, even though I didn't think it was a great episode or my best work. But I go back to that thing. Well, there's worse out there, like, I'm sure. And again, whether there is worse out there or not is not even the point of this. It's that I have to psychologically tell myself this so that I do things. And it has truly been an amazing motivation for me, which sounds really weird. Now, let's talk about the perfectionism piece, because you're like, well, Alana, that's great that there's worse out there, but I want to be like perfect and amazing. So I don't know if it's just because I'm too tired to be perfect and amazing all the time, or even attempt to be that. Could be at this point a few years of elevated cortisol, and you kind of lose a bit of motivation for that. So I will say, I think some of that loss of perfectionism just comes with time, and then you realize you can't keep up that game. You can't keep playing it. And a lot of it was self-induced. My perfectionism was not often, it wasn't at all coming from my parents, actually. There was never that parent that was like, you have to be perfect all the time. That I've seen. That's really difficult. So I was bringing it a lot upon myself, in part because I was being rewarded for being a good student, highly productive, really good at school. So I started to see that, people will give me attention or appreciate me if I'm good at these things. So it kind of propelled me to be better and better and better and perfectionist. And then somewhere along the line, it's like I just dropped it. I just dropped that concept because it's not sustainable. But also, it is absolutely impossible to try something new and to be perfect at it. And I do think, going back to Toastmasters, it is a great experience to do because you are pretty well going to suck. No one goes into Toastmasters, even if you have some good speaking experience behind you, and not kind of suck. You're just going to be called out on a lot of your mistakes. So I think that can be really helpful. I think having a career as a graphic designer where your creative ideas are constantly picked apart and literally trashed all the time, I think that really has helped me because you just can't knock it out of the park, especially in a creative career. I still look at some stuff I do and I think that was really ugly. That's ugly. This was an ugly art day. I have an episode on that. That just really didn't land. Or it was barely passable, and some days you knock it out of the park, but it's not always like that. So the perfectionism piece really does stop you, of course, from moving forward. And at this point, especially the last 10 years of my life, I don't want to not do things because I'm scared of not being great at it. And you have to be good with being sucky at something. It was interesting because just yesterday I was listening to a podcast episode with Stacey London. Remember, she was the host of What Not to Wear. And I found it really interesting because she talked a lot about, in one section of it, I'll link it below in the show notes, how she had a tremendous fear of being embarrassed or falling flat on her face or just really not being good at something. She didn't want to have that learning curve, that really awkward time where you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not great at this. I'm just kind of sucking. She was always trying to avoid that. And I like to kind of actively step into it now. That's not to say I don't like to be good at things. Sometimes, just when you're in the zone or when you finally get good at something, it's an amazing feeling. Sports can be so good for that. Or when you learn just some kind of skill, I don't care what it is, needlepoint. When you're good at something, it is so important for self-esteem and just feeling motivated. But that piece of being uncomfortable and kind of learning things and willing to look kind of like an idiot and a fool, it's crucial. And truly, anytime you're putting yourself out there, a new job, a new gig, a new freelance project, a book you're writing, a podcast you're doing, all of that, you have to be okay not being good at it. And the perfectionism piece, first of all, you're never going to get there. I was going to say you can get there. You can't get there. You can get better and better and better. And sometimes it's really slow. If I'm honest, I feel my progress with this podcast has been a little, I don't feel like it's going, in terms of my performance or the way I'm making the episodes, I feel like there's just so much more betterness that can happen, so much more I can do to make it better. So it's been a really, really slow process. Whereas sometimes I've done things and I really take to it quickly and I feel like, when you feel like you make progress quickly, it feels amazing. And that's kind of why I not forced myself, but I keep going because I'm curious about slowly getting better at something. And is it a race? No, it's not a race. And I do still tell myself when I publish those episodes that maybe I don't love, there's worse out there. I truly, this is my strategy. So I do want to point out, though, I'm not talking about giving up ambition, because actually the fact that you're thinking, oh, I can do better than that, that is an amazing sign of ambition. It means you want to go forward and do something. I'm telling you, if you hear yourself saying that, or you say something to someone along those lines, that is like a fire burning within you. You're just not seeing it. You think it's this tiny little flame. Like the fire has started. It's like if you read a book. I read a book that someone was going on and on about, like life-changing, this personal development book going on and on. So I read it and the book was fine, but I didn't think it was amazing. I didn't think it was like the writing was like anything to write home about, but this person loved it, which is exactly the purpose of that book, to reach that person. So potentially wasn't for me. So it's like you're going to compare yourself and think that you have to be amazing at everything and perfect at everything. But there's sometimes just like, I think, mediocre things out there that do well and they land, and that's amazing. Like, great for them. I look around and I see all these different people doing all these different things, and I want everyone to be doing it. This is the point. We actually need to move forward and try these different things and keep doing the things and follow that little voice that's burning inside you that's like, I can do better than this. And then potentially, if it is helpful to you, you can say there is worse out there, only to get yourself to do it and to not be as scared, because it's like thinking that if someone's worse than you, it makes you feel better. And again, maybe there is no one worse than you and you might truly suck at something. That's good too. Like, it's all good. All of it's good. Whatever you have to do to get yourself to go and do the thing is what you need to do. But I thought I would just share my little motivation that has been helping me for many, many years. And it allows me to be a little easier on myself so that if I'm not doing something so great, I can play this little psychological game and feel like I'm winning. So I guess the competitive side of me is still in there somewhere. But anyway, so this is my strategy. I hope it helps you. And remember, if the flame is in you and you think you can do better, then you absolutely have to go do it, like tomorrow. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. Be sure to follow this podcast, visit alanaruoso.com, and of course, share it so we can build each other up. And before I go, remember to be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.